As we all know, in 1.14, you can make yourself crouch down like this in Minecraft, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I even made a 1 block tall house to go with this. But after I made that video, I also said it's possible to make a 1.5 block tall house by simply crouching inside. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a 1.5 tall Minecraft house. Let's get into it. We're actually going to cover the redstone last, as it is fairly similar to the one from the other episode. So what we need to do is find a piece of terrain like this, where you've got a bit of an overhang because of the way that we're going to do the redstone later on. And we're just going to knock out an area where we want our house. It's wise to start off by making it fairly close to the entrance and not making it too big. We're actually going to keep it as 2 blocks tall while we work on it. So for now, we're just going to empty out a little area. Now, I do suggest that you keep it fairly small, because when you're crouching, you do move incredibly slowly, so you don't want this house to be too big. For this house, we're going to be using a lot of stairs and hearth slabs. So what we're going to do, now that we've got a small area worked out, now remember, you will be crouching, so it does take a little while to get around the base. So I've made just a small area in sort of a cross-shaped pattern. And what I'm going to start off by doing is actually surrounding the walls with staircases like so. There are plenty of grey blocks when it comes to staircases, so that's what I'm going to be using for mine. And as you can see, I'm mixing in the ones in the corner with a different texture to give it a little bit of detail. So I've now put all of the staircases around the walls, and you can see that this has created a really nice effect. However, this is still 2 blocks tall as I can stand up in it. To make it 1.5 blocks tall, we need to introduce a slab. Now you can either add that at the bottom here or at the top. Either way works perfectly fine. I will quickly show you what both looks like so that you can make the decision for your base. This is what it looks like with the hearth slab on the top of the roof, so you've got the detail down the bottom. And this is what it looks like with the hearth slab on the floor. This is the one that I'm going to go with, purely because of some design choices. I think it makes the room look bigger because it looks like you've got more space along the sides as the slabs meet up with the bottom of the staircase. So this is the one that I'm going to keep for now, and now we're going to work on a second floor going up. I'm not going to make a massive staircase, just going up 1 singular block, or well, 1.5 blocks, and I'm going to make a little storage room up here. Now, unfortunately, there is no way to make a staircase that will completely stop you standing up. So you'll see there's this little awkward gap here. I've got a staircase above me, so when you're going up and down these stairs, you do have to hold down shift. So what I've created here is another 1.5 high room. This is obviously made out of spruce so that I can plaster the walls with barrels. There is a lot of storage here, and there's no way to stand up. It's still 1.5 blocks tall. I've got barrels as the flooring, I've got barrels in the wall, and I've put a staircase around the edge so that I can add another layer of barrels all the way around the bottom as well, giving us maximum storage capacity. So you could store everything that you could possibly need in this room without ever having to stand up at all. And then I've got a couple of lanterns here as well. So moving back down into this main room, now you can see that I do move incredibly slowly, which is why I haven't made this base incredibly large. I've put some sea lanterns on the top so that there is some light, and nothing will spawn in here because we are sitting on slabs rather than a full block floor. So it is completely safe. But I think what we should definitely do is make sure that we make this as survival friendly as possible. So I'm going to be adding an enchanting room, I'm going to be adding a nether portal, and see how much we can fit in this tiny space. The enchanting table actually works quite well here because it's actually submerged in this. Another reason why you might want to put the slabs on the bottom side of the base, and then you can surround it with bookshelves as you normally would. It fits quite nicely into this base, and you still don't have to stand up too high. And then maybe consider adding a couple of lanterns as decoration for this little area in here. That looks pretty neat. I've also added a bunch of the crafting things like a blast furnace, smoker, and crafting table, everything you could possibly need in that regard. And then it depends on your play style, but you might want to add things like an anvil, ender chest, which of course you can open because of the staircase, and you can have sort of your primary blocks all along here. Now, as for the farms, that's slightly more difficult, because this area is a little bit more tricky to work with. So, because of the way the farmland is, if we were going to place this on the same level, it would sit there, and then we'd only have a 1 block gap. So I've actually had to make a little area where it drops down. That does leave 1 block where you can actually stand up and you're stuck, but I mean, you can just hold down shift and away you go again. So you can create little farms, and I actually think that this looks better when it's slightly submerged in the ground. It gives the base a bit more of a feel of being on different Y coordinates, even though it's only half a block. I think that that makes a big difference to how this feels inside this room. And I made sure to put a light source here, just so that this helps the plants grow and nothing spawns in here, because this is actually a spawn spot now that you can stand up in it. Of course, you could go crazy with how many farms you want, but remember, you may get sick of walking around crouching, but there is a huge benefit to being in a base like this, and that is nobody can see your username. So you're forced to crouch. So if you've got a hidden base from peering eyes, this is one of the safest bases you can make. Even if you're laying on the floor with the trapdoor trick, your username still turns up, but not in this base. Another cool thing that you can do because of the way that this base works is you could have a small aquarium. And I mean small, literally 1 block, and you could put a fish in there. And you could name it and everything, and he shouldn't leave that space ever, and you've got a little aquarium in the corner of your base, which I think is really, really cool. But that actually makes up most of the things that you would want in this base, the last thing being a nether portal. So in order to make a nether portal, all I've done is literally hidden one behind this wall. I've actually moved some of the blocks out of the way here, and I'm just covering it up, all except for 1.5 block entrance. Now, I don't know about you, but the noise of the nether portal does drive me crazy, so you might want to consider moving this away from your base, but this does make a pretty neat little entrance to the nether. Yep, that's the nether. And then when we go back, we don't have any issue at all, because all we need to do now is just... Wait a second. This has taken me back to my 1 block high house. That was slightly awkward. Let's just pretend that the nether portal worked and I'm back in my base. There's no big issue here because when you come in, you just stand there and you can just crouch around and then you enter your base as normal, so you don't have to mess around with any trapdoors. That kind of covers everything you might expect from this kind of base. You've got your farms, you've got your enchanting table, you've got a nether portal, crafting gear, and of course you've got a storage room out the back. Maybe too much storage room. As for detailing, you can do a lot with the staircases and slabs, but you can also put paintings as you please, as with any kind of base. But remember, this kind of base only works on a small scale as a hidden starter base. This really isn't suitable or efficient if you're going to be making this as your main primary base. But let's move on to the redstone and how you might actually hide this door. As I said at the start of the video, you need to make sure that you have a cliff edge like this. And that's because we need to hide the redstone behind this, and we're going to use this as a pufferfish detector. Now, if you watched my video before about the 1 block house, you'll know this design very well because it's pretty much identical with a slight change. We've moved the piston over here because it no longer needs to push you down in order to crouch. All it needs to do is retract this area here to reveal the entrance to the base. So all we're doing is hooking up a bucket of pufferfish to a couple of pistons that will retract and let us in. So make sure you know where you want your entrance to be and then break a few blocks behind it. You want to place your piston here and then extend it using a redstone signal. Just behind this, you want to make sure you've placed your pufferfish. Now, if you're having issues placing your pufferfish, all you need to do is make sure that you've got a slab block without any water in it at all, and then you go right up close and put it in. Now, the problem is, in creative mode, that's easier said than done. If you're in survival, you will end up getting hurt by the pufferfish. So make sure you do this bit absolutely last. Once you've got this configuration set up, all you need to do is place a redstone torch on the back of the tripwire and link that up to the piston head here. Now, I'm not very good at redstone, remember that? So you could probably do this a million different ways better, but at least this is slightly simpler than the one that we did before. And then you want to link up this same tripwire hook all the way down into the piston underneath, and make sure that this is also powered by default. So it is very, very simple redstone. The pufferfish activates the tripwire, that then sends the pulse to this piston, which turns that off, and it sends the pulse down to this piston, which turns that off. And in the end, you cover it up like so. If we go into survival mode, we'll see how this works. So I go up, you hear the pufferfish, and the pistons retract. I shift in and walk straight into the base. Fairly simple stuff. I recommend doing the redstone part first, in your case. That's what I get for trying to that's what I get for trying to jump in survival. So all we need to do now is rebuild this over in our cliff and see how this all works together. Okay, so it's all set up now. It may look very obvious that there's something here. This does look mighty suspicious, but this is genuinely how I found this piece of terrain. So maybe you would want to edit this to make it look less suspicious, but I mean, it's got floating gravel there, which we're definitely going to hit at the end of the episode. Right, so if I go up to this area, you hear the pufferfish, it should open, and then we crouch inside, and then we have our final base with a fish tank, technically. We've got our enchanting table. You can hear the pufferfish door closed behind us. We've got a farm, which is actually growing. We've got all of our crafting stuff, which, you know, you could extend this base in whichever direction you want. We have our Nether Portal with its 1.5 high wall. We have our staircase, which you can get stuck in, so you have to hold shift when you're going up. Storage room galore, and that is our hidden 1.5 high base. There's a lot of ways to utilize this 1.5 block space, and maybe there are more ways than I've shown to make this more efficient. But this is a really cool base because you are 100% hidden from the outside. And if I go straight back over here, you can hear the pufferfish. It should open straight up, and out we go. I just heard the pufferfish die. Now, why did that pufferfish die? Now, we don't even have to have a redstone door at all. We could just make this entire thing just a 1.5 high house, in which case you can forget the redstone, just destroy all of that, and then we can make an entrance that's slightly different. There's absolutely nothing wrong with creating a fairly obvious entrance over something like this. You could even have it so it looks a little bit like some sort of hobbit hole. You could create a ring around it. In fact, let's just make that quickly now. Oh no! I totally forgot about that. So I've made a very quick hobbit hole style entrance here. Obviously it doesn't quite work on the cliff edge, but you can see how this would work in a hill setting somewhere. And then you just open the door and you crouch in, and then you really do feel like a hobbit in this style house. So the possibilities with this are kind of endless, and you can make it as small or large as you like. But I'm afraid that's it for this video, and I'm afraid that's about it for the different block heights house. I could only do 1 and 1.5, but this is a really cool crouching house, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to make in this sort of tutorial style in the comments below. Thank you and goodbye!